to the third and most special episode of Bloodrot Talks, where we will perform a feat never before seen on this channel, cutting up and not talking for 2.5 hours. That's right, welcome back, it's Bloodrot Talks. And we're going to do our best to not talk your ears off this time. We really are putting the talks in Bloodrot Talks. I am Cass. Welcome to the pod. This is my best friend, Connie. Introduce yourself.
Connie Barnett, ninja specialist,
Ninja Specialist.
God
yes,
gamer.
God Gamer. And how did the God Gamer like tonight's Armory? Because we're recording this right after the Armory. We just got home, took the trash out. It's time for content. It's time to record some stuff.
I mean, honestly, I'm sure everyone feels like they have the best local scene, but we just have the best group at our store. It's always just maximum vibes every time.
Immaculate vibes. It really is. Yeah, no, we had a great time at the Armory. We're going to give a bit of an Armory recap. But before we do that, I want to talk a little briefly about the banned and restricted list. It's been a few days. Got the article put out by James White on Monday. Heard some mixed reviews on that article, depending on what class you play, as to whether that was a good ban list or not. But so, for those of you that are not paying attention, or for those of you that were otherwise occupied, maybe you had something more important than cardboard going on in your life. The banned and restricted came out, and there were two major changes to CC. There were changes to Living Legend and Blitz as well, but I don't care about Blitz. I'm so sorry, Blitz players. I don't care for that format. And the Living Legend change was just that Open the Floodgates was restricted in Kano to just one copy. You get to run one copy, just like Bonds of Ancestry.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for that, LSS, because Kano was pretty scary for the LL calling that happened in Osaka. But for the most important format, the coolest format, CC, they made two changes. Count Your Blessings, the devil that everybody hated, was not banned fully, but it was restricted. They banned the blue copy of Count Your Blessings. So you can still run 6 Count Your Blessings. It went from providing 54 total life gain over the course of all of them being played down to 30. And you can only run the reds and yellows now. I think this is a fantastic change. I could see a world where Count Your Blessings becomes a sideboard card in some decks. I think that it's a lot more reasonable to ask decks to cut through 30 life gain than it is 54. Because more than doubling your life total was a little bit silly. There was definitely counterplay.
Mm-hmm.
I could see Count Your Blessings still kind of working in new. I tested it a little bit. But I didn't enjoy it that much. And I'm on a different new list than the one that I was. I'll talk about that during the Armory recap, but I've tweaked my opinion on some things since I put out that new deck tech, so I'll go over that.
I feel like Enigma probably still makes pretty good use of Count Your Blessings, but I'm not an Enigma main, so I don't really want to.
That would make you a fool, because I happen to be privy to insider knowledge about Enigma, which is that most Enigma players, according to an Enigma specialist, who shall remain nameless, were switching to a 10,000 Year Reunion focused list anyways.
Oh, okay.
So even though Count Your Blessings won Worlds, it seems like the Enigma meta was shifting a little bit. I have not tested the 10k Reunion lists. I just started playing Enigma last week, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's what I've heard anyways. And poor Arachne, I don't think CYB Arachne was doing some stuff. Shouts out to Arachne mains, Ada Sus and whoever was tinkering with it. But I think it's probably not very good in Arachne anymore. Which is unfortunate because they're putting out those extended art CYB promos for the December Armory kit, which I think look really nice. So I'm going to collect those anyways. They did say they could see a future where they bring back blue Count Your Blessings once they've printed enough counterplay for it. I know a lot of people are quite concerned. James White was saying that he liked CYB Enigma and that was the kind of control deck that he wanted to see. And I think I don't want to say people are taking that statement in bad faith, because I understand people being concerned about it.
Yeah.
But if there's one thing I've learned, it's that James White usually knows way more about Flesh and Blood than the typical internet content creator does. Not
Yeah.
not to say that we don't know anything about the game. Obviously, we know lots about the game, but he has a bigger picture plan of what that looks like going forward. You know, I'm sure they have 2 or 3 sets in the pipeline right now after the Hunted. Um, and I happen to be a fatigue enjoyer. I'll go over it in the armory, but I was fatiguing tonight. People were getting fatigued fighting me. They were exhausted.
Yeah, I mean, there's
So
always like that dichotomy between like aggro players and control players, where like control players get annoyed when like the aggro decks are too good and they just explode and there's nothing they can do about it, and then like aggro players vice versa. So it's just like they the two strategies are at odds with each other, and
yeah,
neither one of them can be. If either one of them is too good, then the meta feels like crap, uh,
yeah.
and it becomes unhealthy. So
Well, we'll talk a little more about that dichotomy for the main topic of the pod because we're going to be talking about flesh and blood mentality
mhm.
today. Lots of insightful stuff from this fool with a psychology undergraduate degree and a computer programmer. But we're going to be talking about mentality because we have a lot to say about it. Um, but yeah, that's about it for the ban list talk. Shall we move on to the armory recap?
Well, you forgot about the other card that got banned.
Oh yeah, sorry, I forgot about the actual most important card that got banned, which is High Octane is gone. All of
I
the mechanologist mains are so sad about that, which I understand. The card was kind of cracked. It's a
I mean,
little bit cracked.
I felt so jealous that I was like, oh man, like I lose Art of War, but they still get to like
Euler's
make
Art of
like
War and Bonds.
I lose Art of War and Bonds, and they still get to like. Then Dio got like the item that like draws cards, and they get to make a bajillion action points, and I was like, I mean, it was really cool to see Dio at Worlds. It's like a very interesting deck to watch, but it's still like, you know,
It is a very
it
interesting
stung a
deck
little
to
bit.
watch when you're looking at 2 players like this. And then when
Yeah,
you are there, all of a sudden it's a lot less interesting to watch.
so a lot
I
of I hope they
remember
don't have it kind of thing.
Mhm. And like there was counterplay to it. Like Warmongers did a lot to shut down those turns.
Weakest thing did a lot too.
Um, it did, but like normally when they go for the big high octane turns, they already have the item on board.
Well, I felt the
Uh,
Zen like being able to run Erase Face, Warmongers, and
Erase Face
Weakest
did a
Link.
lot into it.
Like all
Yes.
having all three of those meant that I felt like I was always presenting something that Dio cared about.
Yeah. And you know, as a new player, like I did too. But if you slip up for like a second,
Yep.
like
Yep. Yep.
putting
Yep.
that many action points in a deck that can opt the top card and draw and like with cerebellum processor and then high octane also draws them a card, like it's just
Mm-hmm.
so much knowledge that they have. um it's just crazy. Like I was watching Worlds and I saw that insane, like I think it was like a 59 damage
Oh yeah,
Dio
yeah,
turn or something, and it's like, come on now.
yeah.
Like,
That
you
was a
know,
little much.
anybody who thinks that Bonds and Art of War needed to be banned but that was okay, like showing your bias a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm pretty confident that they'll print something that will make up that gap, especially because they were already thinking about high octane bans for the book bannings. I think the support for that will come a little sooner than the Katsu bandages that he needs to make up for losing Bonds and Heart of War.
Yeah. I mean, we're
Um,
getting the ninja set next, so
yes, yes, we are.
fingers crossed. We'll
They
get some
said on the
surprise.
dev panel the Katsu card is in this set. The Katsu support is here, so we'll see. I'm just like
I'm
counting
looking
down the
forward to it.
days till we get to see more spoilers.
I know.
But okay, now we can talk about the armory recap. I had a bit of an ADHD moment there. Um, but yeah, so we had our armory tonight. I technically won the armory, but I don't care about Acilio cards. So I let my friend Ben take the win, even though I won. So also second place gets more store credit. So I just want store credit so I can buy Jarl of Trade because I like him. He's a cool guy. But yeah, so I was playing Mono Traverse Low Chi Nu, which is quite a departure for me because I am a chi enjoyer, and I really like Mask of Recurring Nightmares. And I yeeted all but 3 chi out of my deck, plus the Sacred Art. And I just put in Traverse the Universe. Sam Dando put out a great deck tech where he kind of goes over. It was like a what he would bring to Worlds type list. Um, and I thought it was really interesting. He brought up a lot of really compelling points, specifically about the Runeblade matchup, which is something that I was struggling with quite a bit in traditional new.
Mm-hmm.
So tonight I was really hoping I would fight Runeblades. And so get there, got my Traverse new all ready to go. I'm looking forward to testing. I sit down across from a new player who's on Bolton, and then the guy who runs the armories repaired us because he goofed and he forgot some people, and I got to fight by allocated. So my first round was a freebie. And when I first started playing, I was like, "Oh, people who get round one by allocated, they're so blessed." Michael Jasker, I think, got one like pretty early into me playing, and I was like, "That guy's blessed. That guy's gem blessed." And now it's like, yeah, I go to the armory. I want to play Flesh and Blood,
Yeah, you
and
don't
I
get to
get a
play
free
as much
win.
Flesh and Blood if you get the round
Yeah,
one.
and get to play the damn Flesh and Blood game that I wanted to play. That's fine. So I watched some other people play, and then round two I fought our buddy Colin on Riptide, which was a pretty fun game. Uh, I fatigued him. I ran him out of cards completely, and then he conceded. And after that, oh, there was actually something I wanted to mention about that, which is Traverse is so cool into Riptide if you can banish any of his specialization traps. Because there was a play where he sent, I was 10 or 12 dominate with some pretty good buffs on them, and he had put 2 -1 counters on my Traverse with Boulder Trap, so it blocked for 0. So I block with Traverse, and then I go get the chi, and then I activate new, and I play the 2 Riptide traps that were in his banish zone, and one of them was the one that says that attacks can't gain attack. So it
Wait,
just
you
like,
played that trap into him?
yeah. So
Oh,
Traverse with
that's
2
cracked.
-1 counters
That's
blocked
broken, dude. What the
10
heck?
or 12. Yeah. So that was pretty fun. I just got to keep my 4-card hand, and I was chilling. That was a cool interaction there. And then um I don't think I activated New's ability once the rest of the night, despite the traverse. Because so into our buddy Keegan, he was on Viscerai, and that was what I was really hoping to fight. I was hoping to fight Viscerai. I was hoping to fight Aurora. I've found that I can beat Florian pretty well, but I also have played a lot of Florian, so I understand the matchup a lot from Florian's perspective. I've seen some people express that they have a lot of trouble with that matchup, but if you spend some time playing some Florian, it makes a lot more sense how you need to attack him and dismantle his hands and stuff like that. But so I fought Viscerai, and Keegan's list is very rune chant heavy. He was like stacking some big rune chants, but I just played for value. Whenever I had a hand with a lot of blues in it, I just pitched to Arcane Barrier unless I had a really good disruptive turn. I'd take like I think I only took 6 damage at the point where he had 34 cards left in his deck, and so when you get
Oh
someone to
wow.
that spot, you're pretty comfortable just playing defensively. Whenever the nice thing about a list like that, whenever Viscerai has those setup turns where he's just stacking runes, New gets to just pick apart his hand and do all sorts of disruption, and so it's really nice how flexible you can be with that plan. I ended up using Traverse to get a blue, thinking because I had like an all red hand, thinking he was gonna send like a big ninth blade or something. I had assumed that was happening, and then I got the chi, and he just like made more runes and passed, which was slightly awkward for me because I couldn't use the hand like super effectively. But even still, it was an all red hand, and I got a blue, so I got to actually play the hand out. Even though I had like 2D reacts in it, I still got to. I think I pitched the 2D reacts to Miss Blade, gave a blue attack, go again, played CNC. Like that's a pretty nice turn. That's nothing to scoff at. To scoff at, sorry, not snuff. Like you're a little animal. Um, but yeah, and so my third game was into our buddy Ben, who was on Aurora, and I didn't play Traverse into Aurora. I took the Chi out of my deck. I just ran everything that wasn't Chi that would affect Aurora. I even brought in 3 Sirens Call, even though Aurora doesn't run many blues, because it just blocked 3. and I ran Balance of Justice. And I blocked out wherever I could, disrupted wherever I could. His Channel Lightning Valley turns ended up being pretty mediocre because I was pretty able to just decide to be on the back foot whenever CLV or Arc Lightning was happening. And then I fatigued him as well. And I really, really like that list. I love fatigue. Not everybody enjoys fatigue, but I think it's. We'll talk about this a little more, but I think that some people think it's just blocking, and it's
Mhm.
not that. It is a lot deeper than that, and it is very easy to write off fatigue as just I don't know like I don't think very good players would say that fatigue is low skill, but I think a lot of people have an inherent bias towards it because they like to do big flashy things, and fatigue likes to not do that. Um,
Yeah, they think of
but
it as being like really lame.
yeah, they're like, oh, no fun allowed, kind of like blue in Magic. But I think fatigue is a little cooler than that personally.
Yeah.
But we'll get into that. You talk about how you did in the armory tonight.
Yeah, I mean like uh last week I was testing the Ira deck that we showcased on the pod. I actually 4-0'd with it last week.
4-0 first place Ira deck tech. We got to change the name of that video.
um Ira feels really good. Uh the only problem I'm having with Ira right now is I'm having trouble beating Enigma,
Mm-hmm.
even with like I'm trying to like shove more go agains in it to make it so that it can beat Enigma, but it's still not quite getting there.
Yeah,
Um
my starting to play Enigma was to help Connie test into Enigma, and I got just
yeah.
wretched, disgusting, horrible Enigma war crime hands that were not great, and well, that were really great as the Enigma, but were not great for Ira.
And then
Yeah,
with Ira I'm also struggling against Kano. Uh just cuz it's like you just don't kill him fast enough so he gets to stack, but I mean like it's hard to like build your deck to be better against Kato all the time. Like you can just
yeah,
AB3 Oasis 3 is like all you can do, but then if I put in the Oasis, I don't have to go against for Enigma, so it's a struggle.
mm-hmm.
Um but I
More
wasn't
sideboard room.
yeah. Uh I wasn't playing Ira tonight though. I wanted to try that Zen list
Mm-hmm.
that won the calling. I tweaked it a little bit because I wanted to throw the arcane barrier on the sideboard just because we have our buddy Braden that likes to play Kano, and we had there's another friend we have, Ryan. He plays Verdance sometimes, and so I just wanted to make sure I had the sideboard cards for that. But the part about the list that had me like really intrigued was that I've seen a bunch of lists that are running wax on.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first list that I've seen that was running wax off, which wax
I'm
off.
gonna restrain myself from making the joke about Zen and that card name because I am a teacher, and it would be irresponsible to make such an inappropriate remark, so I won't.
mm-hmm. I'm glad you were able to restrain yourself.
Yeah,
Um,
www.zenwaxoff.com. Check it out.
but wax off, and you remember this, Cass.
Yes.
When they spoiled that card, I was like making fun of it. I
Mm-hmm.
was we
But
had even
Connie,
we
it
we
seems
had
like it might be all right one day.
we had opened a foil one, and I had just thrown it in the bright lights bulk boxes that we have. I
Not by
I
accident, on purpose.
yeah, I
I
just
watched like
I
we were sitting there sorting cards, and I was like, "Nah, dude, like put it in the ninja binder. It might be good one day."
I'm like,
Connie
nah,
was
this
like,
card's
"No, you
trash, and
fool!
I threw it in
You're no
the
ninja player."
and then like like when that Zen player won the calling, like the card price like spiked like crazy. The foil went up to like $20. I had to like sift through like Bright Lights bulk to pull out this like $20 card, and then
Yeah.
we only had one, so I had to like go to our other friends. I'm like, does anyone have copies of Wax Off that they'll trade to me? Um, and I've been testing it out. I did a bunch of test games into you. It felt really good into new.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
pretty good.
Like I just assumed because like yellow and blue wax on aren't very good cards because they start as 2 blocks and 1 blocks, and that's just like
Hmm.
the value on that's pretty bad. But wax on red starts out as a 3 block, and so it feels pretty good. Like even just to play it as like a 3 block D-React is like okay value with the upside of it becoming a 5 block. Very good into like Aurora and New and Acilio and Viscera and
Hmm.
stuff like that. Ninja mirrors and the like. Um but I just assumed that 3 copies of wax on and 3 copies of wax off like wasn't enough.
Well, it wouldn't line up.
It wouldn't line up. But I think I made a Zen state off of wax off in almost every game that I played
Yeah.
since testing this deck.
And even then, as I learned from playing Kasai and Enigma, sometimes a blue 2 block D react with upside is all you need, especially in a Mystic, right? You can transcend off of it if you need to.
Yeah, I've
Like,
I've transcended off of like there's several times where I've just played wax off without the wax on just so I can transcend on my opponent's turn. Like that's especially important to New, where you can kind of do that in response to the disruption to make sure that you get the transcend off so that your headpiece does something.
yeah.
Um, I had a game into our buddy Hayden. He was playing Acilio, and I very start of the game arsenal wax off, and then I just like kept doing aggro hands, and then uh, I draw a wax off or a wax off in arsenal.
Hmm.
When he goes to do his big like double sigil of brilliance turn, I make the Zen state token. Well, he attacks with a 4 attack. I block that with wax on. He goes with
Hmm.
another 4 attack. I do wax off. I block with the chess piece. I have a chi that I transcend off of the wax off, and then I make the Zen state off of the chess piece, and I have two Zen state tokens into his like giant go wide turn. It
Hmm.
doesn't do enough damage to me, and then I get to keep it around for the next turn, and I just keep pushing damage, and it's just like there's nothing you could
It
do.
it lasting for 2 turns is crazy.
Yeah,
Like,
and I've never I've never experienced having multiple Zen states at once. The last game that I played against our buddy Keegan after you beat him and then he went over to me,
hmm.
I like we're kind of just like joking around. I actually was able to make 3 Zen states at once, even though it was not optimal. But I could because
Yeah.
I drew wax on plus 2 wax offs, and then I activated the chess piece. And it's just
Hmm.
like that's like a crazy amount of value. I I feel very silly for having said the things that I had said about the card when it got spoiled.
Okay. So I think now this might be a good segue into our main
Yeah.
topic. Unless you had more you want to say about the armory.
No, that's
Okay.
I didn't like
So
4-0 or anything, but I just kind of goofing
yeah.
around.
Well, it's good to see you having fun experimenting and trying stuff out.
Yeah.
Because like so a little bit of background info which you'll give is I know like I feel like I've had a pretty good few months of Flesh and Blood. Like
Mhm.
I've been feeling really really good about the game, and it seems like you are too now. But you had a little bit of a time there, and so we want our main topic is going to be about mentality, and you know that kind of goes for all aspects of the game. We're going to talk about competitive mentality, casual mentality, the internet, and how it affects things like this.
Mhm.
But I want to start it off by just asking you to share, like, what were the struggles you were having with Flesh and Blood?
Well, so I when I started playing this game, I didn't think of myself as a ninja main. I was specifically a Katsu main.
Hmm.
And you know, prior to Outsiders, like we weren't like that good at the game yet. We were just going to the store and like learning. And then Outsiders came out. You got Azuri, I got Bonds of Ancestry for Katsu. And that was like our first time qualifying for Nats and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Um And at that point, I just main Katsu. That's all I played. Um, like a little bit before Outsiders, I was playing a little bit of Fi because like I was like asking for advice from people, and people were like, "Oh, just play Fi." And then but then I felt like this longing to play Katsu, and then he got much better, and then I played Katsu pretty much everything from that point onward. Um, and then when Mistveil came out, um, like I bought all the Zen cards because I was like, well, I should get the ninja stuff because I collect ninja stuff. But I was still a Katsu main
Hmm.
at that point, and
And
like
you also, I remember you thought Zen sucked at first.
yeah,
It was
I didn't get it. I didn't get
a
it at
lot of people
first.
did, and
A lot of
then
people
I
just looked at the commons and like weren't think weren't thinking about what happens when you jam a bunch of bonds of ancestry into it, and uh
I remember very specifically there was, I think, I can't remember which pro player it was, but somebody said, "So is this another Lexi situation where we're going into a big tournament and everybody knows who the best deck in format is, but people aren't talking about it?" And I was like, is that Zen? Is talking about
yeah.
Zen?" And turned out it was Zen. He exploded onto the scene, but yeah.
um but yeah, and so like Zen came out, and I was like I didn't really want to play him. Like I
Mhm.
was like, oh, Bakatsu is so much cooler and all that stuff. And like my identity in Flesh and Blood was so tied to playing Katsu
Mhm.
that like even though winning is very important to me, I was prioritizing my my identity as a Katsu player over like winning tournaments, which is fine if like you come to terms with that.
Mhm.
But what it kind of like the path that sort of led me on was that like when it became clear to me that Zen was just like objectively better than Katsu,
Mhm.
you know, I was like I was playing Zen, but then like I was feeling bad about it because everyone was like being like, "Oh my God, Zen's so broken! Like, what a BS deck!" Blah 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 blah,
Mhm.
and like like oh, Mistveil ruined the game and stuff like that, and so like I felt like I kind of let that get to me, and like every win that I got on Zen, I was just like attributing it to the deck being broken and not to you know me doing what I can to win the game.
Mhm.
And when it was evident that Zen was too good, and then we started to see first the bonds bannings, where they banned the yellow and blue bonds, which affected Katsu way more than it affected Zen.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, then I was like, oh my God, like my favorite hero in the game is dying. Like I don't know what to do. Like I feel like all of my knowledge in the game is like filtered through being a Katsu main, and am I can I even win this game if I don't play Katsu? And
Mhm.
then when the full bonds ban and the full Art of War ban hit, then I was like, oh my God, like Art of War is like that's what ninjas are. Like I can't win the game
Mhm.
without Art of War. And I just like I was like dooming, and I just really felt like um I had like some thoughts of like quitting the game because I just felt like like all the investment that I put into my ninja card pool was just like wasted,
Yeah.
and I would have to wait like another like year or so before they would like make more ninja cards.
The hunted. Sorry.
Yeah, and then there's just another ninja set around the corner, so it's fine.
Yeah.
Um, but you know, and so like at first I really hated that decision that LSS
Mm-hmm.
made. But like Cass was saying, they have the bigger picture that like I didn't have,
Mm-hmm.
which was, you know, Art of War decks were sort of establishing what was aggro. Like you have to
Yeah.
do this much damage to ride to be an aggro deck. And when they nerfed that damage, like yes, Zen now is not nearly as powerful as Zen with Bonds and Art of War. But
Mm-hmm.
now that's what the new height to ride is.
Yeah. Especially now the high octane's gone, because there was
Yes.
randomly like still a deck that could do double bonds turns, which was Dash with high octane. But yeah.
Um and you know, like I think an interesting I think that you in card games it's like it's okay to like have like your favorite hero
Mm-hmm.
or you know your favorite deck, but I think it's not very healthy to like sort of tie your identity to just one hero and like
Mm-hmm.
if they're good then you're having a fun time and if they're bad then you're you know miserable. And I know not everyone can afford to buy in to multiple decks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And
I'll talk about that a little bit, but
yeah, um but it has made me shifting my identity in Fab to being a ninja main instead
mm-hmm.
of a Katsu main has made me feel a lot happier with the game.
Yeah.
Where I'm just, you know, hey, Ira comes out. I'm going to try Ira and see how that goes. Hey, there's this new Zen tech. I'm going to try Zen and just like getting reps on all the different ninjas
Yeah.
um, has definitely made the game feel more enjoyable.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think a very interesting comparison to make is to fighting games,
Mm-hmm.
or like MOBAs, like League of Legends or something like that, where,
We've
uh,
mentioned League every episode, accidentally.
well, that's what
Happens every
happens when
time.
we play League of Legends.
Ah, don't remind me.
But in a game like that, where your reaction time and your knowledge of reading people and stuff like that is a big factor in how well you do,
Mm-hmm.
it can feel more rewarding to just stick with like one hero or one champion or one fighter in a fighting game and just master everything they do and learn every matchup from their perspective. But in card games, especially if you're playing an aggro deck where you have to do a certain amount of damage for other decks to care about you,
Mm-hmm.
you know, if Katsu's bad, then I shouldn't play him
Yeah.
because and I but if he becomes good and then I can pick him up again. But if I tie my enjoyment to the game to whether whether Katsu's good or not,
Mm-hmm.
then my experience of Fab is a roller coaster instead of just playing a deck that is decent and just tying my enjoyment to like following the meta and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um,
Um.
yeah, I don't know if you have anything to add from the assassin player perspective.
Yeah. So like, I think I think it really depends on what you're looking to get out of Flesh and Blood, right?
Mm-hmm.
Flesh and Blood has always had a very competitive sort of connotation to it because of like the big emphasis on the pro scene, and I really love that about Flesh and Blood. But there's a lot of people where that's not what they're looking for. But even when that isn't what you're looking for, even if you're not trying to like go to the pro tour and qualify and all that stuff, and you're more of like just want to have a good time at the Armory player, I think we can tell ourselves that we don't care about the meta or that things like that don't bother us. But I've watched people and the way they talk about certain things in this game, and I can tell everybody cares to a certain extent. Um, I think the biggest example of main syndrome is how really polarizing matchups get super vilified, and I am super super guilty of this. So like as an assassin player, at least before new, right? When I was playing Uzuri, like if I was put up against a wizard or if I was put up against an illusionist, I would throw a temper tantrum internally. Like I would be so annoyed. I'd be playing on tilt. I'd be like this is so stupid. Like they don't even have to really try and they just beat me, right?
Mm.
And it's no fair. My deck doesn't have the tools to beat their deck. And I started to let go of that mentality, and that was actually how I ended up qualifying for the first nationals. I was fighting Aaron Shantz at an RTN, and I had made top 8. You had to make top 4 to qualify. And I had like the night prior, the Plague Hive had put out this um, specifically like anti-Dromai gameplay video of like having, I think it might have been Sam Dando and Ben Dodd, I think. I can't remember. But it was
Mm.
them walking through fighting Dromai. And I watched them discuss the matchup, and it really opened my eyes to how much agency I was missing because I had been defeatist, right? I just complained about illusionists and I whined. And sure enough, like, a lot of Azuri or a lot of new players, myself included, were feeling pretty hopeless about the Enigma matchup, and that was what I beat to qualify for Pro Tour. So,
Yeah.
you know, like you can complain about polarizing matchups like that, um, but when you don't play those heroes and you only play like one hero, you don't really have a clear picture of the opponent's perspective into you. You don't get to see how much skill goes into them beating you. Um, like Flesh and Blood is a game full of skill, and every once in a while someone does high roll you. It does happen. I'm not going to say it doesn't. But when you don't have that insight of having tried a few different heroes, when you have not piloted that hero and seen what it takes to win with that hero, lost as that hero, seen the bad hands that hero has, and been asked to get the value out of them, you you don't recognize your mistakes. You don't recognize the moments where your opponent didn't make those mistakes. And you were kind of talking about the dichotomy between aggro and control players.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is a big deal in Flesh and Blood. And it's something I've seen a lot online is a lot of people want to do the big funny board. They want to have a big funny turn where they just do a bajillion damage. They get to do their cool thing. Ninja players, they love doing that big cool thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
We all love going 7 or 8 chain links wide, doing like a 20-30 damage turn. And this ties back to the CYB Enigma thing. Is not everybody wants that. I don't have a particular interest in it personally. It's not the kind of game I like to play. Like, it's cool when I incidentally get to do that with stuff like the Flick Knives and Mistblade combo,
Mm-hmm.
but that's not what I play Flesh and Blood for. I play Flesh and Blood because the moment to moment interactions and decision making of the game are what really interest me. I really like to feel as though me and my opponent are that we lock eyes. We look at what the opponent's presenting and we have to really think about everything. And like I watch an aggro mirror, like um I was fighting Colin on Riptide, and then I forget who was right beside me, but it was like I think it was Jasker versus Braden. It was just
Oh
Kano
yeah,
versus Fi,
it was the head jabs 5 versus Kano. Yeah.
and they played 9 games by the time I was finished playing versus Colin.
Mm-hmm.
And that is really funny, but I have no interest in playing 9 short games of Flesh and Blood. I would 1,000 times prefer playing one long, very well thought out game of Flesh and Blood. That's just the kind of Flesh and Blood I like.
Mm-hmm.
And when you are an aggro player and you think that the coolest thing in Flesh and Blood is to kill your opponent really dead really hard, right? You will start to color your opinion of what other people are doing based on that preconceived notion. And I'm not gonna say that I'm not guilty of this. When I was getting into the game, people would play Icelander, and I was like, is this even fun? Like, is this even fun for the Icelander player? They just play blue cards at instant speed, and they give me frostbites, and
Yeah.
they just don't let me have any fun. Like, that can't even be fun for them. So especially when you're newer to the game, it's very easy to fall into that trap. But it's not. It's not good. It's not healthy for you. It's not a way to make the game enjoyable. And I I remember very clearly, um, like I really started to take the game seriously around Outsiders, and then Bright Lights happened, and I'm not a fan of Bright Lights, and the Bright Lights meta was kind of weird because like Bright Lights didn't super change the meta. Like I
No,
think
not really.
I can't remember if there was like Bright Lights expansion slot cards that did anything. Like I know Already Dead helped Azuri into a couple
Well,
matchups.
I think that was like the end of the life cycle of Dromai.
Right, that was the big meta shift there.
She got the tome that was really good for her, and that was like pushed her to high-low.
Oh yeah, that's what it was. Okay, yeah. Dromai got the tome, which oh my god,
That's
Dromai got
also where Wax Off was
that is true.
printed.
It was a meta changer. We just didn't know it yet.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, so heavy hitters came out, and I was like, oh my god, we got adult Kasai. We got like a cool new Guardian. We got a brute that seems really interesting. Like I was super pumped about heavy hitters, and it was a very popular set at first. And then everybody started talking like, I'm getting really tired of this heavy hitters meta because no, oh yeah, Dromai LL'd after heavy hitters though
Mm-hmm.
because I remember I had to tech my Kasai deck really hard to beat her. Um, but yeah, like people were like this game has just kind of devolved into mid-range soup. Like it's just who can present two card sevens and who can block who better, and it's just a very boring numbers game. And I was like, I don't know, I like that, right? But there was a very big negative opinion about the heavy hitters meta being too slow. It's too mid-rangey. Mid-rangey is not good. And so then we get
I felt that way too. Remember?
you did.
Because
Yeah.
I was still playing Katsu, and I was super annoyed that Victor was super good into me, and
Yeah.
that like I would try and like trigger Masco Momentum, and then Kasai could just put the Valiant Dynamo in front of it, and I was annoyed that my deck was bad.
Yeah. And then people iterated and they figured out the pouncing links tech, and there was a whole
Mm-hmm.
bunch of cool stuff that happened as a response to the block heavy meta. And then even within that, people were complaining about KO being like the most giga broken aggro deck, which he was not. He was not. Like people were just not prepared for him. Like
Yeah,
he
I
was a deck
remember
full of
as
non
Katsu,
blocks.
I had like an easy time into KOs because
Yeah.
they had all the non blocks, and if I could just play around their one instance of disruption, which was their headpiece, or the various CNCs they were playing, like if I could just navigate those, I could win.
Yeah.
And
But
I think
so
I did a pro quest where I went like almost like I just went X1 in Swiss, like just
yeah.
running through KO and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a good one. But yeah, so like nobody was happy about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we move to Mistvale. And everyone's like, "Oh no, like if these heroes are going to be any good." And they were saying like, "No, Mistvale's going to be pretty good. We expect these heroes to be pretty meta defining."
Yeah,
And people
everyone was
started to
being
figure it
like,
out.
"Oh, they have all these no blocks in them, and like, gee, like a blue heavy deck. All blues suck. They're not good cards. Like an aggro deck that is all blues. Like, what the heck does that even do?"
Yeah, and then everything went crazy, and it turns out that Zen was giga broken, and he was running over everyone, and suddenly aggro was in the meta, and oh, what's that? Now all of a sudden we don't like aggro. That's no fair.
Yeah,
Zen sits across from me, and he just shoves his equipment, and then he does like 17 chain links, and I die. And then nobody was happy, and still to this day, people are saying Mistvale ruined the game because now that Zen has been toned down, We see Count Your Blessings printed. Oh, all of a sudden, Enigma is the control deck, and it's not mid range, and it's not aggro. Now it's control. It's fatigue, right? And Count Your Blessings Enigma is fatigue in everybody. Even with Dash.io being around, she managed to bring it out, and nobody likes that either. And so there comes to a point where we need to ask ourselves the question, what do we like?
Yeah,
And I think the
for
honest
sure.
answer is that we like to win. We like to win. We don't like it when people block our stuff. We don't like it when people high roll us, and we don't like it when people mid range our stuff and disrupt us. I hear people complain about fighting new. I hear people complain that her ability is super toxic and like, playing out your opponent's cards is no fair and shouldn't be able to fatigue you. And you know what? Some of those complaints might be valid. I'm a new player. I'm not going to pretend I have an unbiased opinion of new. I could name two or three cards that I think, if they banned them, I wouldn't be able to complain. I think it'd be fair.
Yeah, but I
Um,
don't I don't think people I think the issue is sometimes when people talk about that stuff,
mhm.
they're not talking about like, oh, I think new is just like a little bit too strong and they maybe need to nerf her a little bit. They talk about like the strategy as a whole
Yeah.
and like how the strategy as a whole is toxic for the game and
hmm
things like that.
And and this is nothing new. We're not like genius philosophers for having the insight that people like to complain on the internet. Obviously,
Hmm.
they do. But I wanted to bring up a couple things that I think are a barrier that make this problem worse, and maybe some things we could do to change it. Some things we could do positively for Flesh and Blood, because I happen to love Flesh and Blood, and I have a lot of fun in this game when people are competing in good spirits, and we're discussing the game in a good way, in a constructive way. Um, and there's a very serious barrier for this problem because, like I said, I think it is a problem of people being very insular in their experience, and this isn't so much the case for really top players, but for a lot of the internet communities, both on Discord and Twitter, Bluesky, etc., this is a really big problem. And the barrier to resolving this is that the game is bloody expensive. It's an
Hmm.
expensive game. It really is. Like putting out that new guide, I wanted to try and come up with some like if you're like a brand new player, you don't have to buy Codex Frailties and Command and Conquers and all that to play new, but you kind of do
Yeah, they're very
to
core to the strategy and it's like really
yeah,
not
like
the same without it.
if you're playing into other underpowered decks, it's fine. Um, but realistically, you got to spend upwards of $1,000 to play most really good decks in this game, and there are some
Hmm.
that aren't quite that expensive. I don't think Mechanologist is quite that expensive to get into. That's why it's a very popular deck for newer players to get into. But like it's expensive, and so to ask someone, hey, play a bunch of decks, broaden your horizons. I think a lot of people very rightly will say, well, how dare you ask me to spend hundreds of dollars buying a separate class? And that's fair. I am not asking people to do that though. While this game is called Flesh and Blood, and we like to play it in the Flesh and Blood, I think that there are a lot of things that you can do to counter that. And Talishar is one of them. Talishar and
Hmm.
Fabry are miracles, and we should all support them on Patreon, which I'm planning on starting to do this week because I've been meaning to get around to that. I
Hmm.
think I really took them for granted just how valuable resources they are in the community. Um, like there are so many ways that you can take a deck you don't own and test it right now. You can go on Talishar, you just copy someone else's deck list, you plop that into the bar, and you try it out. You see what it's like to pilot that deck. Now, I think another thing that would help this issue is more Flesh and Blood content creators and more Flesh and Blood lists being shared with newer players, and the information generally being more open. Um, I don't like Discord for this, but there's not a lot of options for it right now. I think right now the experience of joining a community on Discord and learning how to play them is not great.
Yeah.
Fighting games have this problem quite a lot, which is it used to be there would be a forum. There's like Dust Loop, for example, for Guilty Gear. And you go on this forum, it's already separated into characters. You click on that character, it's got frame data for every character, it's got matchup guides, it's got combo guides, it's got everything you could need. And now you have to track down an invite to the right Discord server. You have to uh, give yourself the right rules in that Discord server. You have to navigate to the proper channel that might have the resource you're looking for, and they're not well formatted, most of them. And this is in fighting games, let alone Flesh and Blood.
Yeah.
Then you have to go to the pins, and you have to scroll through and see what resources have been pinned. And if you ask a question, you have no idea who's answering you. No idea whatsoever.
Yeah.
Some completely random schmuck who's played the hero for like 5 minutes could be answering your question.
And sometimes the people that lurk on these discords, like, they can be a little degenerate in their thinking, so to speak.
Yeah. And because the internet can be so negative, there's a ton of that negativity in these communities, right? You you go into a Discord server and you ask, how do we beat this hero? And someone's had a bad day on Talishar, they'll be like, "Ugh, a hero, it's a nightmare matchup. It's so hard." And then some other person might disagree with you, and they'll be like, "No, like this is how I deal with this hero." And I've seen arguments happen like that all the time. Whenever I try and learn a Flesh and Blood hero,
Mm-hmm.
on the various channels in the Flesh and Blood Discord, and so like it becomes a problem where the negativity can be helped by seeking out more information, but the places that we seek out that information can still be full of that negativity. So I'm not quite sure how to fix that one. But I think talking about competitive mentality is a good place to start. And being the change you want to see in your local community and online is a great thing to do too. Something that I think would also help, and we kind of went over this a bit in our last video, is the sideboarding process. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's probably the thing that trips people up the most. They learn how to play the core of their deck. They have no idea how to sideboard properly. And the meta is constantly shifting, and they don't know what things they're supposed to bring into what heroes. And when they see a deck list, unless it's written by someone who was making a specific like deck tech with sideboard, very often they'll copy like a tournament deck list and it's like 70 cards.
Yeah,
And they
the
don't
ones from
know.
the FAB website are all like that too, where, like, obviously, in Gem you can't upload the sideboard guide, but
Yeah.
because you can't, like, there are lots of. I know when I was getting into the game, I was
Hmm.
trying to learn Katsu. It took me forever to figure out why people were playing Flusterfist Red and not the other
Yep.
parts of the combo line.
Yeah, I
Uh,
remember that.
until I finally was able to flag someone down in the Discord and be like, "Why is this card in the deck when you're not playing the
Yeah.
thing?" And then they explained it to me. Um, and so stuff like that can be very difficult. And you know, uh, shout outs to our buddy Mariusz when he started playing Flesh and Blood.
Oh, yes.
He he was playing Katsu,
Hmm.
and he would play 70 cards,
70 card Katsu, every
70
every
cards in
armory.
every matchup, because he just, like, that's just what felt comfortable to him. And
Yeah.
then, over time he got better and he got a coach and stuff like that that was able to help him a
70
lot.
Mariusha's 70 card Katsu so nearly kicked my butt. I think I can't remember if I was playing Kasai or Azuri, but no, I think I was Azuri.
Yeah.
And like I couldn't fatigue him, and then he was just Kadachi locking me because he had 70 bloody cards in his deck. And but then he accidentally pitched a non-zero cost blue and to a Kadachi, and he bricked his turn, and that was the only reason I won. Um, but yeah, exactly. Like as a newer player, that experience is terrible. And there are some spots where you'll go and ask for a deck list or like ask for someone to like show you a deck list with sideboard, and they'll just like give you a really rude answer. Which, I get. People
Mhm.
aren't entitled to like for you to teach them per se. But you can have a little bit of understanding. Like we were all new to this game at one point. And so, at least on this channel, our aim is always, if we do a deck tech, there's going to be a sideboard, and I'm going to try and talk you through each part of the sideboard. If there was some way that tournament lists could like specify their sideboard, like that's probably unrealistic, but just like
Yeah.
some way that a brand new player to the game can at least understand which cards are core to the strategy and which cards are supposed to be targeting all these decks that are freaking them out, I think it would help. Um, but yeah, I don't know if there's a way to fix that, but I think just in general, like if especially now that the hero bloat is going to be getting worse, and that's not something I'm worried about, but it's something that a lot of people are, like particularly more casual players. Um, I know like Dice Commando was talking about this with James White,
Hmm.
and James White was saying like he doesn't think it's a problem necessarily if there's going to be a big influx of heroes. At a certain point, it might be, but the plan is to be increasing the roster size gradually. And as that's happening, there's going to be more Zen. There's going to be more Enigmas. There's going to be more Kanos. There's going to be more decks that all of a sudden it's going to be someone's worst nightmare if they see that in Gem
Hmm.
because it's really good into your deck or it's really good into that person's deck. And there will be online hate conversations about it. And it's just going to keep happening. And it's a completely understandable thing to be that upset when it's something competitive. It can be very taxing to lose gracefully or to keep a like a positive mindset, a constructive mindset when you lose to things like that. But if you want to get better at the game and you want to have more fun with it, that's what you have to do. I remember when we were learning, and we should end this segment soon because we're coming up on an hour, and I want to keep this a little shorter.
Yeah, for sure.
But you were kicking my with Katsu.
Yep.
Day in, day out, I was just getting crushed. I did not understand how I was supposed to block Katsu. Like I would just block incorrectly and you would just like destroy me and I was fed up. I was
Hmm.
so annoyed. And I was like, "You know what? Build me a Katsu deck. Like we're going to put together a second Katsu deck. And I'm going to play Katsu. I'm going to learn Katsu." That's exactly what I did. I built Katsu. He was relatively inexpensive at the time, thankfully. But I was like, I'm learning Katsu because I will have no more of this. And I played Katsu for like, a couple weeks, and I learned how he worked, and I got to experience my turns from the Katsu's perspective, and it made so much more sense after that. And our matchups became much more winnable. And as Assassin got more cards, they got more Assassin favored.
Yeah, I
Um,
I can't honestly recommend enough just switching decks with your friends.
yes,
You know.
yeah, that's a great point, which I had forgotten to mention. Like the Flesh and Blood community is so chill about sharing cards.
Hmm.
Like at the very least in Southern Ontario, we are. But like whenever a new player comes in, Connie and I and the rest of our locals, we're like, "Oh, what's that? You're interested in this hero? Well, we have this, and that hero. If you need to borrow this card, you can. Like, we'll
Hmm.
we'll throw this deck together for you. You're just gonna be missing this card." And if you're getting fed up with somebody's deck, you can always ask them, just, "Hey, can I try that hero out?" Especially if they're your friends, just give it a try. Just try playing their hero,
Yeah.
switch perspectives. It'll help you learn a lot. The game is all about community. And the less time we spend molding about the matchups we get and complaining about the heroes that people play and throwing little tantrums when we get beaten, the more time we spend just swapping decks and being friends with those people, the
Hmm.
more knowledge we're going to have access to, the better this game's going to be. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think that about wraps it up for at least the mentality talk. I think I said everything I needed to say. Basically, I just love this game so much, and I've had such a good experience playing it, especially this last year. And it pains me to see so many people not realizing how much they're causing their own distress with the game and how much negativity they're spreading for others with it. Like
Yeah.
every time there's a meta that people don't like, they will just start like ruining it for others, and it's not a good way to be. If it gets that bad for you, you either got to take a step back or you got to rethink how you're playing the game. You got to change something. It's not good to just throw your hands up in the air and complain about Legend Story Studios or complain about players of a certain hero. right? It's gonna get you nowhere.
Especially when this is the best card game ever made.
The best card game ever made, bar
Yep.
none. It is fantastic. It is so good. And I have the utmost confidence that it's going to keep getting better when I am given so many Arachnes. So many Arachnes. Um, but yeah, so that about wraps it up for the mentality. I did want to have a little addendum at the end where we talk about these Christmas cards, though, because I don't know if did you read what the cards do?
I I only read them very. I know there is the one where you pull it
The
apart
Cracker
and it,
Bauble.
yeah, and it's got like of random tokens on the back. It's really
It's
cool.
so cute. It's so cute. And yeah, there's like one where one half is a soul shackle and the other half was what the heck was the other half? I forget. It was something crazy where like one person gets like this crazy upside and the other person gets a soul shackle. And there's like there's so many things where you just like split it in half. One person gets one token, one person gets the other. You can get a frostbite.
Yeah,
It's
those are gonna be so fun when those come out.
yeah. I can see some very fun casual fun with that. But the so I don't know if you know exactly how like the holiday promos work, Connie. It's possible as of the time we recorded this video, this is true, but it might not be when the video goes out. There's another card. There's another card. I think it's called Christmas Spirit or Spirit of Christmas.
Was
And
that the
what
one
it
with
says,
all the heroes on it?
yes, but I don't. Let me just pull it up real quick so I can read you the description. Okay. Each hero chooses another hero. The chosen hero creates an agility, might, vigor, and gold token. Go again. Zero cost blue 3 block. So, in a 1v1 scenario, you play that card, it's got go again, and everybody, like both players, get agility, might, vigor, gold.
Yeah.
It is not currently listed on the banned holiday promos list. As of this video, that might be a CC legal card. That means, as Victor, you can play that card and the opponent has to choose you and you get a gold and you draw a card. So it cantrips and then you have an agility, might, and vigor, which gives Guardian a way to get go again in their own deck. Um, as Florian, you will double all of those tokens that are given to you.
I didn't even think about the Florian thing.
Um, as new, getting an agility token is crazy. Like, and as a mystic, it's a blue 0 cost with go again. That's a 3 block you can transcend on. Um, like Enigma can maybe do funny stuff with it. Like, I'm hoping it's an oversight because that card seems cracked. That seems like $100 majestic, to be
Well,
honest.
yeah, it was like I don't think the Xmas presence was that's not legal, right?
No, it's not legal. So this would be the first of its kind to be legal. So it's probably not going to be. It's probably just a mix up. But if
Yeah,
it's not,
that seems like that seems a little too good.
a little bit. But if it's not, we better get some Christmas spirit in this meta. And you know what? Maybe that's what we need. Maybe that's the positive. We all need holiday cheer in our CC meta. That's what we all need this holiday season. We just need a big old we need Squizzy and Floof in CC. That's what we need. Squizzy and Floof and CC playing Christmas spirit.
Merchant set win.
Yeah. But that about wraps it up for this episode of Bloodrot Talks. We actually kept our promise. It's just over an hour long. Thank you all for listening. I know we've said this a couple times, but like the new guide, the first episode has like over 800 views as of making this.
Yeah, it's
Um,
blowing our minds like how this is like really hit the ground running for us.
yeah, so I just want to thank you so much if you listen to these episodes, if you enjoy listening to us talk. It means the world to us. I try to reply
Mm-hmm.
to every comment that we get, um, and just make sure we express our gratitude. Uh, if there's anything that you want to see in future episodes, I know I've said this before, but please leave us a comment. Let us know what you want to hear us talk about. Um, the other thing that I wanted to mention is people have been asking for gameplay streams. I put out a gameplay video which doesn't have great audio and has me chewing gum the entire damn time that I'm playing. because I have this problem where if I'm focusing really hard on something, I will chew on my tongue. I will rip into my tongue with my teeth accidentally.
Yeah,
So when I'm playing games, I need to chew gum.
yeah. Cass had recorded it late at night, and I hadn't gotten the. I didn't know that you were recording it, so I hadn't got a chance to do all the
Well, I felt bad we
OBS
weren't putting out an
magic for
episode,
it.
but
Yeah.
yeah, no, my audio is not great. So we're gonna fix that up. I'm gonna try and do the next one as a gameplay stream.
Mhm.
Um, I, if all goes according to plan, I'm probably gonna stream some this weekend, but we'll see what happens. I'm gonna be streaming. I really want to stream the Traverse New list, and I don't want to do a deck tech for that because Sam Dando already did one, and I'm kind of doing the same thing. It's just a little bit tweaked. But I would love to do some gameplay of it, explain my thought process on playing it and whatnot. So that's what's coming up in the future. Um, yeah,
Yeah,
that's about
and
it.
I encourage you, for this podcast to talk about mentality. If you have like any insight into like from your own personal experiences that you'd like to share in the comments, like please do. We'll definitely like and reply on that.
Hmm.
Because I think it's a good conversation to have in competitive gaming and
For
in
sure.
card games. So yeah,
Um, yeah, I just love talking about Flesh and Blood. Could talk about Flesh and Blood every day for hours on end. It's consumed my mind like a kind of eldritch curse, but like a good one that makes me happy. Um, but I think that about does it for us. I should probably go get some sleep. It's been a long day.
yeah,
But Flesh and Blood's the best game ever made.
absolutely,
Bloodrot Talks is one of the podcasts of all time. And
absolutely.
yeah, thank you so much for listening. Until next time.
See ya.